Welcome, everybody, to episode 6 of It Happened on the Job, our podcast for relative and interesting conversations with contractors, relevant rather. With us today, we got Bob Moore, and on the topic of relevancy, we are coming to you in the midst of the COVID-19 lockdown. We have just been ordered to stay inside, which we are clearly breaking. We are here in our studio in the office. Rest assured that Brian and I are maintaining our 6 feet of separation, and Bob is on the other line from his office. So I'm going to shoot it over to Brian.
But is it? But Mike, is it truly a lockdown? Are we really locked down? That is the question.
Right.
I saw a lot of people on the road and walking their dogs.
I'm sure by the time this actually gets out to gets on the air, we might have some more clarity on that, and or not, or maybe we've got some more confusion on it. But so we're navigating those waters right now together. So Bob, go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Bob, if you could just kind of introduce yourself a little bit, tell us a little bit about who you are, your history with the company, and what you guys do.
Sure. I'm Bob Moore. I am currently the president and CEO of the Gray Company's West Region, which entails two operating businesses, construction operating businesses, one of which has a engineering and architecture element to it. The Gray West construction piece does design build construction, both industrial and commercial type projects. Timberwolf Construction builds mostly commercial structures and does less or little design build. And I've been with Gray for a little over 20 years now. We were, and actually my business, and I had two partners at the time, was acquired by Gray back in 2001. So it's been a long road since we were acquired then, and we've grown and evolved throughout that process, actually, to become a larger entity than Gray Construction was when we were purchased back in 2000. So our overall entity, we're known as the Gray Companies, and the Gray Companies is a portfolio of businesses that do probably more industrial and manufacturing, design, build, construction, engineering and architectural services, particularly for the food and beverage industry throughout the United States, Canada, and we're just undertaking our first project in Europe right now, if it continues forward, given the COVID-19 outbreak. So that's a little bit about us.
Excellent. And you've been with the company for quite a while, it sounds like, and kind of taking direction back to what we were talking about prior to actually coming on air. If you could kind of give us a feeling of what's happening currently in the minute by minute, hour by hour changes of this just strange phenomenon known as the COVID-19 coronavirus that we're dealing with this week, maybe particularly around the office or outside in the field as well.
Well, what we've been dealing with this, since we first started hearing about the outbreak in China, and having some past experience with H1N1 and some of the other virus outbreaks, and safety and quality of life being our absolute first and primary concern, we had a preparedness plan in place that we dusted off a little bit and updated to be a COVID-19 preparedness plan. And actually, this was some time ago. This was probably back in January that we were concerned not just about COVID-19, but what was predicted to be a very bad flu season in general. So fortunately, that plan has served us well to guide us through what has been confusing information and orders being issued by different municipalities, counties, and states. So we're like everybody else. We're navigating, but our safety plan it really has given us a rudder to kind of steer through and make decisions along the way.
So for those of our contractors that are listening to this, I got to assume that there's probably a large majority that don't have that preparedness plan that you guys do. Not to obviously bore them and read through it page by page, but are there some key points to that thing that might be a good takeaway from this for our guys in the future?
Yeah, sure. We really have it divided up into 3 parts, and really our phase 1 is awareness and prevention. With phase 2 is risk mitigation, and phase 3 is exposure, illness, and quarantine. So by dividing it into those phases, as we come into the flu season, we have a good plan of what to do with sick team members, when to seek help, and certainly communication with customers and internal communications gives guidance on that. It talks about questions that we asked for visitors to our job sites and guests. If you've been ill, you're experiencing shortness of breath, do you know anyone who's been exposed? All those types of protocols are important. And without having the plan exactly in front of me, it's tough for me to get into all the details
I don't mean
of
to
it.
put you on the spot. I apologize, but no, I mean it sounds
really
more like it's an awareness and an education of the team members to make sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yes, and it carries at what stages, given public health information, we would curtail business travel or inter-office meetings, and certainly at what point we keep our people from attending conferences. And so, again, it served us well. I think we were out in front of that. And it actually, I think it also helped. I was a board member and past president of the Retail Contractors Association, a national organization. And we had our annual meeting coming up here last Saturday. And in the days leading up to it, I think it really helped us evaluate canceling the conference as the leadership looked at this, because when you have the plan and you're able to work towards it, you really see the markers of what the potential is of the virus and the potential impacts, and you have the ability to, I think, make a better decision, because the people that we host this conference in conjunction with, they are hanging on to the bitter end. Obviously, for economic reasons, they're just hanging on, and it just doesn't make sense to expose people, particularly when you got it in writing and hey, this is what we're going to do. So, have a plan.
Yeah, no, I think that's phenomenal information and very valuable, especially, I know hindsight's 2020, but it's obviously going to happen again. It's happened before. So
right. With that plan in place, especially with, a week ago we were talking about the skilled labor shortage that's happening in the industry and all that. But maybe particularly internally for you guys, I had a phone call with another contractor this morning who was telling me that they're part of the essential services that have been deemed necessary. He was
supposedly,
saying,
right?
Yeah, supposedly, yeah. But his thing was, he's got guys calling in on a daily basis that are fearful internally about, going out to work, and he's trying to find that fine line of taking care of his employees, but at the same time getting them paid. Are you maybe it's kind of a two-pronged question. are you experiencing that same fear internally with your employees? And what are you guys doing to maybe it might be part of that plan, but to instill some sort of hope or I don't know the word hope or
let's use the word optimism.
There we go.
Yeah.
Optimism. Thank you.
And without a doubt, I am trying to maintain everybody's level of optimism about the future, because this is, in the big picture, a short run challenge that we will come through, and I think there'll be lots of opportunity on the other side of it, particularly for contractors that take care of their customers, listen to their customers' needs, and also listen to their team members' needs and stay loyal to those at the same time. And we do put our people first, and we do have some people that have these concerns. And without a doubt, we have told anyone who does not want to work because they feel uncomfortable or exposed that they shouldn't at this time. We've also committed to continuing to pay everyone through a period of time, regardless of what happens, if they have to work home. And this applies to our non-exempt hourly people who, obviously, if they can't get to work, it could put them in peril. So we are having them work from home, or had them working in place until such time that we can get them going again. And then, of course, anybody that's in the demographic of risk, that has an underlying health issue, is over the age of 65, and believe it or not, superintendents in this, we have several superintendents that are over the age of 65. Outstanding experienced individuals, but we've taken them off project sites, and we are having them stay home to err on the side of caution. So those are all things we're trying to do for our people, and yes, it may cause some short-term shortages, but the team has done a great job in this crisis of pulling together. Project managers are covering, project engineers are covering, and the team's really pulling together at this time.
Yeah, it sounds like you have a great culture that's obviously showing itself right now, and then the benefit of creating that culture. What does it look like from a forecasting standpoint? How are you guys? What are you seeing for the future? How far out are you trying to forecast this thing? Or are you just kind of, I can't imagine, it sounds like you got your stuff together enough to the point where you're probably not flying by the seat of your pants at this point. But with everything changing as often as it is, it's got to be difficult.
We are making forecasts and projections, but at this time, there's great uncertainty to it. So of course, there's great uncertainty to the accuracy of the forecast. But we don't have many projects that have been put on hold as of right now. Out of all the projects we have going everywhere, we have only had one that has canceled. So far, it looks like people are, keeping their wits about them, and certainly projects for medical and food and beverage. Those customers are,
yes,
they're like, let's go faster. All they're doing is let's go faster.
Yeah.
So I think there is a silver lining in all this, and that there is opportunity, and that if you have been taking care of your customers and you have a good culture for your team, we'll probably come through this out of it stronger, with more opportunity and more projects. Going down the line.
What are you seeing from a job bidding perspective? I have to imagine that's probably slowed down a little bit.
We've seen a little bit of a slowdown in the number of RFPs coming in, and even though we've only seen one project cancel, we've seen probably about a third of RFPs, invitations to bid, have been postponed at least. I don't want to say canceled, but just postponed. But at the same time, we do have several proposals that we continue to work on, but all those are related to industries that are amongst those essential ones: food and beverage, right. Medical. Yeah.
Well, and kind of alluding, and I'm going to kind of pull us off the COVID-19 and maybe talk a little bit more about your company in general. So you were talking previously about how when you guys first were merging with Gray 20 years ago, and now you've actually become bigger than what they were originally. I'm assuming, and we've kind of started experiencing this with a lot of different contractors that we've been interviewing, that a lot of it has to do with the culture internally of not only the employees, but internally within the office, but those that are out in the field and the management that's overseeing them. If you could just kind of speak to maybe some of the hiring processes that you guys utilize, and maybe
the employee benefits, part of it, and
maybe that benefit side of it, but overall, just kind of what are those things that you're seeing with your staff that are keeping them involved, and maybe even kind of with the crisis that we're experiencing now, that are keeping them basically all hands in,
Well, you're describing it in your question. Without a doubt, culture is key. Thank you. That was perfectly it. But culture is key, and team member engagement and how we bring people onto the team and how we engage them as a team member is key. So, of course, we have a great human resources team, both in Lexington and our other offices, and especially here. Teresa Kingsbury's our VP of Human Resources in our California for our West operations. And without a doubt, we're doing a good job of onboarding people. We have a team member engagement calendar. We have found our goal, particularly through the last few years when people are in extreme shortage, that our best people have been the people that we have grown over time. And certainly those that we've recruited from universities and brought them in early into our culture. They've been our strongest leaders to ascend within our organization as well. But part of that is we literally have a culture class that is part of our orientation, so you really understand what it means to be part of Gray. We are a 30% ESOP, employee stock ownership plan business. So if you are a team member here, your fate is tied to the fate of the company, and it's been a tremendous benefit in that the performance, particularly over the last 6-7 years of the ESOP, has been absolutely outstanding, and really a nice benefit for our team members that have done a great job. So it's all those. It's many different strategies all coming together to build a solid culture with solid engagement. We utilize the one-to-one feedback process where every single person has a mentor or supervisor that they do a one-to-one with every other month. And we find that to be a very, very valuable process too, because that process is about listening to what our team members are feeling and thinking and needing and how they want to develop. And then we challenge our supervisors to make sure they're finding that solution. They're caring about that person, and they are clearly describing that person what their path through our organization, what that looks like, so we can have a solid succession development plan and keep growing. And it's not always perfect, but we've had pretty good results. And anyone listening, if you're still doing annual reviews with anybody, burn those right away and throw out that process.
Yeah. You're missing a lot of opportunity there for sure. What going back on that on the ESOP, what were the driving factors, or how did you guys come to that decision to go to a platform like that, or what was the driving force there?
Without getting too much in the weeds, we had shareholders, particularly one, Howard Gray, who came down with multiple sclerosis, MS, and it was he was an amazing leader, and but again, this is why you have succession development plans in place. He lived with it for many years and was able to manage it, and then very, very quickly it prevented him from continuing to lead the overall organization. And at that point, it was also Howard sold some shares back to the company, and it was a perfect opportunity between Howard's shares, and we had other key employee shareholders, including myself, that then sold some shares back to create this ESOP class. And for the exact reasons we were talking about, the ability to engage people, make them, have a piece of the rock, so they are bought into the long-term success of the organization.
That's awesome.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, obviously not everybody's at that ability or at that, size or able to do that. But I think that once you do have that ability, I think it's, like you said, it's holding everybody accountable and putting a little skin in the game for everybody to kind of feel part of the team.
Well, and I think that's important for any business. And I do know businesses much smaller than ours that have successfully used ESOP as a way to transition from and stay out of the owner's trap, which is so prevalent among contractors and subcontractors.
Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Maybe even circling back to 20 years ago when you guys started with Gray. What was some of that vision? I imagine that you probably stepped in and had to cast some vision for this new entity that you guys had created. What was that vision? And then maybe if you could spell out some of that execution plan that you guys utilized to get to maybe the point, maybe even 10 years ago, but that 10-year vision that you guys cast.
Well, we looked 20 years ago at Gray worked mostly in the southeast and the eastern part of the United States. The former entity, before we became Gray West, worked mostly in the west, and there was an opportunity through acquisition for them for us really to create a more national organization. Yeah. And that, of course, like anything, we laid a 5-year strategic plan and determined exactly how we were going to drive it. And of course, none of it really worked out anything like we planned it. But in essence, having a good plan did lead us to make some good decisions and adjust the rudder along the way. And again, the keys for us are being very customer centric, being very market centric, looking for niche opportunities, and really particularly people and markets that need design build services, food and beverage being one of those, and really find our way to grow profitably by aligning in a more niche way. And to be honest with you, even say 5 years ago, 6 years ago, our plans from that point, we've probably doubled what we intended to do, which again, maybe our plan wasn't very good, but
have worse problems to try and overcome though, right?
Exactly. So we've been very blessed with a lot of opportunity, and I'd say a lot of that opportunity that came to us, more than we thought we would see, came to us because of we have great people. We take care of them. We have great customer relationships, and we take care of them. And we're aligned in markets where people value, our services, probably more than in some other markets where it's, more cutthroat.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So imagine
differentiation is the key strategy.
Yeah. And like you said, the niche there too is find something you're good at where you can be, give that quality performance to your customer. But the next one, let's imagine I'm asking you this question 2 or 3 weeks ago, or maybe even at the end of 2019, because I think if I ask you this now, we all know what the answer is going to be. But on a day-to-day basis, what are week to week, or what are some of the challenges or hurdles that you guys face, and how you look at them, and how you overcome them, and what that plan looks like internally, or how you guys develop a way to get around things?
Well, I'd say at the end of 2019, our biggest concerns were people. Our probably main limiter to grow and continue to help our customers and even respond to the opportunities they're putting in front of us. We're having enough qualified people. In fact, we were probably at the point where we were, of course, bringing people on, but not at the rate we needed to really respond to everything that was being put in front of us. So that was a big limiting factor, even to continuing to grow. So that was a big one. But also, we were very wary of our subcontractors being in the same boat and being deeply concerned about subcontractor failure and quality of work, and their ability to keep up. And seeing that also is a limiting factor. Of course, that's shifted here. We'll see how it comes out the other side.
Right.
But at that time, those were probably the two biggest concerns that we had.
So how much you talk about subcontractors, how much work are you guys self-performing versus using subcontractors for?
Probably less than 10% of our work is self-perform. We have customers in the restaurant sector, fast casual sector, that we do self-perform quite a bit of work. The type of work it is very conducive to having experienced crews do that type of work on a repetitive basis.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's not much that we do self-perform at this point.
So how going back to that challenge of the contractors, the subcontractors' performance and the concern for that, how involved do you find yourselves having to be from a project manager standpoint with those guys to kind of make sure that they're all on the same page and maintaining your standards?
Well, I would say our site managers, superintendents are spending more time than ever on QA, QC issues. We have a good piece of technology that we've developed where our superintendents and site managers on a daily basis are using the tablet and the functions in there to make quality checks and give feedback to subcontractors through that loop, and then also pre-planning as much as possible the work. We find that really helps subcontractors when we get involved, challenge them to pre-plan, and then interject in their execution plan prior to them doing the work. It helps get them focused, and actually some subcontractors give us feedback that it makes them more efficient, and they're on board with us helping them to plan. So our team does spend a lot of time doing that, but that is part of our plan to deal with subcontractors and certainly their employees that may be less experienced and less capable. And our other huge concern there, of course, is subcontractors that have people who may not have been in the industry that long, yet they've hired them to be some kind of a tradesperson. The safety is our bigger concern. And, our site managers, project managers, our entire team is actively focused on safety analysis, pre-planning, to make absolutely certain that, when it comes to actually executing the work, everybody understands how it's going to be done safely.
Yeah, I think that's key there, is safety. And I think the pre-planning is brilliant. We don't really talk until now, right, with these podcasts that we're doing, but we've been so involved on the insurance side, we don't really get into a lot of the other stuff. But I think that pre-planning is hopefully it's going on quite a bit in the industry, because I think that's key. Just kind of from a hiring standpoint too, right? If you kind of make sure you're checking all the boxes, dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's with somebody before you even bring them in, then you lessen the chance that you have an issue with that person down the road. So yeah, I think that's
absolutely,
that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, Bob, we're kind of wrapping up here. I know you probably have quite a bit going on, but we wanted to see, part of this and really kind of towards the end here is, and you've had a lot of experience with the company growing so much and doing so much across the nation and now across the globe. Can you come up with any, maybe when you guys were first starting out, or a funny kind of crazy story, whether internally with you guys or out in the job or out in the field, that comes across in your mind as being something that is unforgettable in the industry that you're in?
Sure. And this is going back a little ways to January of 1994.
Right.
I was obviously much younger then, but for those out there listening, that time means something. That was the Northridge earthquake.
Yeah, that's right. January. Yeah, I remember that day. Yeah.
And I was, project manager. I was doing some different things at that point in my career. But my best customer, by far, my best relationship, and was Sears. And we, at that point in Southern California, were their emergency response contractor. And at roughly 4:45 in the morning, I think the earthquake was at 4:32 a.m. I got a call from the Sears construction manager. Said, "Bob, I know we've had an earthquake. I need you to head to North Hollywood and Northridge. I want you to get a structural assessment going on those properties, and let's see if we can get the store open by 10 o'clock this morning."
Oh, jeez.
And I had just ridden out the earthquake, grabbed my 1-year-old and 3-year-old, got them out of bed and, rode out the quake, a lot of glass breaking. And I'm like, I tell my wife, "Okay, here are the kids. I'm going to work." Maybe not the best decision in retrospect, but she understood, and so I jumped in my truck and headed out for the epicenter of the earthquake, having my trusty what looked like a World War II walkie-talkie cell phone in hand. Remember those? About had like the 3-foot antenna on it and the whole thing, and go blasting out to Northridge. And again, in retrospect, and I know so much more now about safety, and probably I should have made better decisions, but I continued all the way to that Northridge Sears store along streets that were flooded. There was gas that was on fire that was bubbling up through the water. It's still dark out. Everybody's confused. And but I got there. I got to Northridge. And, of course, there were a lot of people there because there was the guy who was sweeping the parking structure that was attached to the Sears store that had pancaked, and he was trapped in his vehicle, and they were trying to get him out. I met the Sears store manager there, and we started going into assessment mode of how do we evaluate this? But of course, we made the call right away. This isn't going to open by 10 o'clock this morning.
More like 10:30 then. 10:30, 10:45.
Yeah. In fact, maybe you better call the insurance guys and get them out here too.
That's awesome.
Well, anyway, it was quite an experience, and it was a great learning experience for me because we did a lot of things, even going inside the structure to do some evaluation, which we never should have done. We shouldn't even step through those doors. There was asbestos in the store. Anyway, there was just tons of lessons learned regarding to what do you do in an emergency like that? What do you do to communicate well? What do you do to lead in those instances? And honestly, those lessons are serving me well today when we're confronting uncertainty about COVID-19. So it was a great experience, and we were given the green light to fix that store, which we basically tore down the whole thing. And the CEO of Sears at the time said, for the community, I want to be the first store reopened at the Northridge Fashion Plaza. And we reopened in October of 1994.
Wow,
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Congratulations. And I mean, along the lines of those safety things, I have to imagine that's you probably weren't alone there, right? I mean, I feel like safety and awareness and that kind of stuff has come leaps and bounds just in the industry in general. Since
yeah, absolutely has evolved, and I couldn't be happier to see that it has happened, and I'm hoping it continues.
That's awesome.
Well, we thank you for the time, Bob, and we appreciate it. I know you probably got some fires to go put out and some things to take care of, and hopefully we'll catch you on the other side of this, like you said, a lot stronger and in a better place for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you both. And if anyone wants to find out more about Gray, visit us at gray.com. Thank you.
Perfect. Awesome. Thanks, Bob. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Bob.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Hey, thanks for listening. And if you've made it this far, go ahead and give us a like or 5 stars or whatever means you like us.
Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode. And check out our website for more video content and extras.
While you're there, shoot us a message if you want to be a guest. We'd love to have you on.
Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.